I don't know how we are coping. We're coping with, I mean, wind and rain. If we go on holiday at the end of this week and the school holidays hit, we're going to have the sun. It's the absolute sodding miracle, isn't it, that human beings have survived this long. How on earth human beings managed to survive in equatorial areas? I mean, the Amazon jungle, Middle East, Saharan Africa, I mean, most of Asia. How on earth have people survived all of these, well, not just days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, millennia, without aircon, with heat waves and rainfall and heat storms, as they're called now? It's an absolute mystery to me, because now, of course, we have governments and authorities and those lovely people in public health to tell us how to cope with being a human being on planet Earth. Well, if you are planning to go on holiday to Europe because you booked a holiday there because it's sunny and hot, you'll probably manage just as well as you've always done. I don't know, take a bottle of water, wear a hat, sit in the shade, put sun cream on. All of these things have worked for a very long time, and they may work for you. If you do make it back alive, well done. You're British and we're proud of you. We've got this massive heat wave. I'm seeing these glorious pictures on Sky and BBC and everywhere where the reporters are near hysterical, standing around saying, people can't cope, it's all terrible, it's terribly hot, it's the end of tourism, as hundreds of tourists wandering by with shorts holding a bottle of water or an ice cream look perfectly happy, as far as I can tell. Is there going to be an impact on tourism to Europe? Because I think one of the main reasons we travel to Europe on holiday is for the heat.
Well, certainly, yeah. And of course, mad dogs and Englishmen do go out in the noonday sun. And, the fact that there will be, unbelievably, people from the UK who are going to places like Dubai and Egypt now, where they are getting the same sort of temperatures that you get very exceptionally in Europe. It's actually quite tough being a tourist in places like two of the great capital cities, Rome. They're saying stay indoors with the curtains closed from 11 till 6 every day. And then the Greek Culture Ministry has said that they're closing the Parthenon between 11:30 and 5:30 today. That, of course, is the main attraction. And if you're on a cruise ship and you're going into Athens, you're going to get to the Parthenon, the Acropolis, around about 11:30. Find it closed.
I went there in October last year,
yes.
And I've got to be honest, it would have been too hot to do it then in October. I looked up 2021, 2019 and 2017, the Acropolis, the Parthenon, was closed for some parts of some days during the summer in those years as well. I've no doubt it's happened many, many years in the past, but I think crucially it's happening nowadays because of this, got to be safe thing. I would advise someone who is elderly not to go and do it. Perhaps if young children don't do it, and don't do it in the midday sun at any time of the year. But this is the thing, people not being allowed to make their own choices and not just being given good advice. It's this nannying of people that I find really bizarre. I've walked in, in Kings Valley. I've been to Ayers Rock. Yes, it is called Ayers Rock still. I've been to the Amazon jungle. I've done my travels. I've been in very cold places, been in very warm places. If you are dressed accordingly and have suitable numbers of supplies of either hats, gloves, scarves, or water and cover-ups, you can be anywhere. I mean, human beings survive in a whole variety of different environments.
Well, exactly. You mentioned Central Australia, where Uluru is the name that people use. The local base.
I've got an Australian producer. He's just said in my ear, Ayers Rock.
Okay. Anyway, but yeah, of course, the Aboriginal people of Australia, the world's longest continuous culture, they have been coping with extreme temperatures for tens of thousands of years. So, clearly it can be done. But we're talking here about people wanting to enjoy themselves. And I fear that there will be one or two people, and it's not just the elderly, the people with young children, people with cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases, who will be kind of thinking again.
Well, they should be careful, but that's not everybody. But this is the thing. This is this culture which is just like, well, some people might be at risk, so nobody can do anything. Assuming, by the way, we can get away and we can come back. We've got a whole load of different sort of strikes, and you mentioned the rail strikes. We've also got Gatwick. There are going to be strikes. We've got some talk about this border force strikes. Whether troops won't be provided this time around. They did a great job doing customs checks at airports last year or earlier this year. Absolutely brilliant. Everyone was saying how wonderfully quick it was, better than normal. Should we just expect, especially with the big holiday getaway this weekend, it's going to be awful and horrible, and you're lucky if your plane gets there within a day and you're not spending 18 hours in an airport to travel an hour on a plane, and we're just going to have to put up with this? This is what travel's going to be like these days?
Look, there will be some stresses and strains. I very much hope that 95% of people will get where they need to be without undue delay. Yes, we've had a horrible weekend. We had crosswinds at Heathrow, which saw, for instance, one Emirates Super Jumbo trying to land twice and then eventually going off to Glasgow, which was a bit of a surprise for everybody.
As if that's the nearest airport.
And then we had Italian strikes that caused hundreds of flight cancellations. We've got, you mentioned the Gatwick strikes. They are due to be starting with the ground handlers on the 28th of July, so 11 days from now, and two lots of long weekend strikes, although talks will be resuming this morning, I understand. Yeah. And you mentioned the French air traffic controllers. We have to. It's obligatory at this time of year. We don't know what's going to be happening with them.
We do, Simon, we do. They're going to be on strike.
But honestly, most people will get away. What I'm crucially watching is what happens with the ports this coming Friday and Saturday. That's going to be the peak day. Dover says that they actually had a really good weekend. They're getting people through smoothly. But can you believe this morning, Stena Line, which sails from Harwich to the Hook of Holland, has actually been emailing people saying, "Oh, don't sit in the queues in Dover. Come and sail on our ferries instead." Guess what? Stena Line doesn't go from Dover to France.
Yeah, good for them. Simon Calder, thank you very much. Live from sunny London Waterloo. I'm terrible. James Hill, I love it when he's not somewhere glamorous. The amount of times it's wind and rain outside the studio window, and he's going, "Hello from sunny sod off."
He gets all the best gigs, doesn't he?
He really does. Him, Gloria Hunniford and me. Oh. We are the three people on holiday most in this country.
You can never all be in Britain at one time. I think
there's a law. I think there is a law. I'm assuming Gloria's away because we're both in the country. Talking about the heat waves, though, it is extraordinary, isn't it? The hysteria we get. Yeah, it's getting warmer. Yeah, climate change, whether it's climate change, whether it's El Nino, La Nina, whatever it is, it's just an unusual weather front. We're having these. I don't really care whatever it is. It's something we can't control, seems to me to be very clear, but we can control what we do. What I don't want is other people controlling what I do. If I choose to go out and live with the consequences, I'm very careful. I don't sunbathe when it's midday. I know I'm not made for this. People can work out what to do, can't they?
Well, of course, and they can mitigate circumstances, right? So you can take, extra clothing or sun cream, etc., or plan your holidays around certain things. And so I don't understand. I think the lack of responsibility in all of this is quite telling.
They've all the authorities now assume that we're all just idiots. Now there are some idiots. Yeah. But
that's always been idiots,
they've always been, exactly, and that's why we have the Darwin Awards, because what we want is for those idiots not to breed before anything bad happens to them, to keep the gene pool quality up. But this is the thing. I mean, it's so obvious to me there are things that you should not do if you are, I think we should ban people from climbing Everest because an 80-year-old died on Everest. Well, no, maybe you're 80, you shouldn't be climbing Everest.
Yeah, and I think it's individual responsibility, isn't it, at the end of the day? I think Simon was trying to be quite sensible there in terms of the advice. And as he was pointing out, the Aborigines in Australia who've dealt with certain temperatures for thousands of years.
The whole of the Middle East, the whole of Africa, lives in these temperatures. People function in warm temperatures far better than they do in cold temperatures. Yeah. You know how you can tell this? Because you can look at the population density in different parts of the world, and where it's warmer, there are more people.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it comes from a position of knowledge and expertise, and just going, if you're going to go somewhere, plan ahead and make sure you've read all this relevant stuff and advice, and that's all you can do, really. And I don't understand now why it's blown up into a bit of a hysteria.
And that's